Hi! Time to go over the stuff from the last few days of April 2026 and the first day or so of May, give or take a day. First up, let's go over some purchases. We went, one of my nephews has got an apartment in Santa Rosa, so we went to see his place, and wouldn't you know it, I did a little look, and there were some bookstores nearby, so got to go to the bookstores. One was Barnes and Noble. Didn't pick anything up there, but the other is a place called Treehorn Books, Santa Rosa, and a used bookstore. Went in there, and they had a pretty cool selection of old paperbacks and pulps. And I have gotten a approach to purchasing that works. And like, if I can walk away from it, then, or I have to feel like I'm talking myself into getting it, I don't get it. But if I see something that's like, oh damn, that's going home with me, I get it. And I found one, a paperback of The Vault of Horror, a novelization written by Jack Oleg. Both Tales from the Crypt and Vault of Horror have been on my kind of like wish list, and seeing that, I was like, oh, please be, please. Oh, it was only $12. My cutoff is $20, but I got this, and I was opening it, and I was even like reading like bits and pieces of it and all this. I'm like, yeah. So I've learned about Mayhem, which is reading either horror short stories or a very short novel underneath a certain length, and this is a collection of short story adaptations, and it's only 122 pages. So I said, Chad, you're going to do Mayhem, and this is the book you're going to read, or at least one of them. I might read a couple of short stories. I'm always reading, or trying to read. It depends on whether or not my brain is behaving itself on any particular day. The other thing I got was the soundtrack to The Faculty, a 1998 monster movie directed by Robert Rodriguez and written by Kevin Williamson. Starred, let's see, the cast list here is Jordana Brewster, Clea Duvall, Linda Harris, Josh Hartnett, Sean Hadsby, Famke Jameson, Piper Laurie, Bebe Neuwirth, Robert Patrick, Usher Raymond, Jon Stewart, and Elijah Wood. And I had forgotten that Jon Stewart was in this movie until he did a bit on the Daily Show where that I totally had forgotten that he was the science teacher. And he roasted his own performance in it. I'm surprised that that this soundtrack is like 88 minutes long. But Intrada put it on its danger zone that they were running out of their limited edition release, so I decided I'll add that to my collection and listen to it every now and then. Although there's a couple of times when I was listening to it, I'm like, this actually sounds like it'd be better suited for a Bond movie or something. All right, let's move on. I completed the Frankenstein Man. Oh almost said Manster. Frankenstein Manor uh, uh, puzzle, 500 pieces. It was challenging because it was a lot of it was black and glossy. But so I kind of like focused on doing the center pieces that had patterns that I could actually search out, and wound up doing the border last because they were all the same color, and I got burned by a messed up puzzle. I think it was the Maniac puzzle because it was all black, and yeah. So I learned a very valuable lesson about uh, puzzle assemblies. I now take the path of least resistance. Uh, Also, what was interesting about that experience was that the first session I did, I forgot to put the camera on time lapse on the video for on my iPhone. So it was in real time, and so it was like an hour and a half, and it finally filled up like the memory. And oh yeah, it was getting it transferred over to um, my computer and getting it uploaded and doing that was that was an experience. So it yeah, um, I'm more attentive to making sure that it's set on time lapse, so I don't like record a hour and a half video of me sorting through a puzzle and putting together pieces. The next puzzle on deck is going to be the Titanic puzzle I picked up while visiting, visiting the Titanic experience at the Luxor in Las Vegas, and looking forward to doing that one. Okay, reading wise, I did finish Ordeal by Innocence by Agatha Christie, and I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. Even knowing, I remembered some of the mystery, but not all of it because I'd only seen the film, and I don't know how much the 1984-85 film with Donald Sutherland and Christopher Plummer and Faye Dunaway. I don't know how faithful that is to the book, but I know that Christie took some flack for her characterizations and whatnot. That she was much more of a plotter of intricate mysteries than she was a teller of like memorable stories or creator of vibrant characters. Although her investigators are Hercule Poirot and Jane Marple and so on and so forth are memorable. But yeah, but this book I really enjoyed it. And it really, even knowing a key aspect of the mystery and looking for all of the and looking at all of the hints and the clues and the misdirects she did. And when I finished it, I was just like, wow. And I also felt it was pretty, although some of the psychological aspects and some of the cultural observations are dated, and very much so, considering it was written in 1958 by but there were still some pretty astute observations in there that were pretty cutting, and I think this one goes to the top of some of my favorite Christie. My all-time favorite remains, and then There Were None. And after that, I'm kind of probably partial to The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. And but I think this might be number 2. This might come right after, and then There Were None. But we'll see. I'm going through all of Christie's books, so we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I recommend it. If you like classic British mysteries, you've probably already read it. If you haven't, I recommend you read it. I also read the short story "The New Man," which was in the March 1982 edition of Twilight Zone magazine, and that page to screen review got posted on Wednesday. And it was interesting reading the source material for the the first episode of the Tales from the Dark Side anthology series. And it was the first time I had watched the episode in a long time, and I realized also how much my own trauma with my first marriage being to an alcoholic that drank herself to death, and the emotional and psychological abuse that occurred in that relationship. Um, how you know how how hard that hit. But I recommended it in that review, and I recommend it here. Uh, that let's see, trail camera. We got footage of a deer nibbling on our plum tree, as opposed to using that area as a toilet, which was a nice change of pace. Also got a bird and a raccoon running by, but the highlight was that deer nibbling on the tree. Also, I was putting together a new hutch for Sam for sitting out on the deck. And while I was doing that, I took a break, and then I saw something out of the corner of my eye. And lo and behold, there was a gray fox sitting on the trunk right outside of the sliding door. And he confounded Sam. Sam was like, "What is this?" And I got some little video of that. It was pretty cool. It was, you know, one of our friends said we should be on the lookout for kits, which I guess are baby foxes. Maybe I don't know. I don't know if that was a male or female fox, but yep. Spring is definitely sprung, and the wildlife is returning. So I'm sure there will be an uptick in the volume of trail cam videos that I like sharing here. Viewing wise, I watched a film called Hostile Dimensions on Shudder. This was a film from 2023, and it's a found footage movie that was evidently part of a trio of films made by a filmmaker in his own apartment with a collection of friends and other filmmakers, I'm guessing. But this was an interesting. I think one of the reasons why I finally bit the bullet and watched it was because Kane Parsons' movie Backrooms is coming out at the end of May, and I'm really excited about that. And there were aspects of liminal space, kind of backrooms imagery that I glimpsed in the trailer, and so I watched it, and there was a lot about it I liked. What I liked was the whole concept of there being these random doors sprinkled across the globe that open onto alternate dimensions, alternate worlds, and that are sometimes very similar to our own, and other times very, very different. And as the title said, very hostile and very dangerous. And that aspect of it I really liked. I think where the film kind of faltered was in the storytelling and the characterization department. There was times when I was just I was just not connecting with the material, and I was a little confuses. Like, now, why is this happening? Or why are they trusting this person? And then you get into the whole, like, alternate dimension versions of people that exist in, that there's a version of you. So how do you know it's the right version that's coming back, and so on and so forth. But overall, I liked it. I would watch it again. And it just for some of the more crazy experiences in the other dimensions. Pandemonium is a favorite of mine. Okay, that was that. Give that a recommendation if you're so interested. And now I think I'm just going to get us into the Wayback Machine. So climb aboard, buckle up your seatbelt, and let's take a look at some vintage newspaper ads from dates concurrent with those of the work week from Monday, April 27th through Friday, May 1st. And our first stop will be April 27th, 1990. And William Friedkin's The Guardian starts today. Now, as entertaining of a raconteur as the late Friedkin was, The Guardian really is a great comeback for whenever he goes off on hurling verbal brickbats at, say, John Borman's Exorcist II: The Heretic, because this film shows that Friedkin was standing on the was hurling those brickbats and stones and sticks and stones and whatever else he was throwing over there from the porch of an ornate and fragile glass house, because The Guardian stinks. It is a movie that I think serves as a great example of when, of just because I suspend my disbelief does not mean you can insult my intelligence. And I walked out of the opening day matinee screening of that movie mad as hell about it. I hated it. For one reason or another, I think I did. When it came out on home video, I think I gave it a second chance. It was one I said, was it really that bad? And so I think I have a fuzzy memory of maybe giving it a second chance on home video, or maybe I just wanted to see the scene where the tree kills a trio of miscreants, because that's the best part of the movie. The tree just chomps on a guy. No matter, though, it still stunk. It was just as insulting to the intelligence as when I sat through it at the Kabuki Theater in San Francisco on April 27th, 1990. All right, let's zip back 10 years to April 27th, 1980. And the Examiner here has an ad for the novel Cain and Abel by Jeffrey Archer, which that title, tells you all you need to know. It's one of those big, soapy, sudsy stories about two guys that are at war with each other. The only thing that could have put it even more on the nose is if he had named the characters Cain Hatfield and Abel McCoy. But this is the only Jeffrey Archer novel I've read, and I remember enjoying it, but just not enough to seek out and read any more of Archer's work. Yeah, it's one of those. It takes place across several decades of a beef between two guys that could have gotten cleared up if they had just sat down and talked to each other. But if they had done that, there wouldn't have been a book. Okay, let's zip forward. No, we're going back. Sorry, 9 years. It looks to April 28th. 1971, and The Incredible Two-Headed Transplant starts today. Now, The Incredible Two-Headed Transplant was the first of two films about noggin grafting released in the early 70s. The second would be 1972's The Thing with Two Heads, which starred Ray Milland and Rosie Greer, and which I still have not seen. But I do know I saw The Incredible Two-Headed Transplant a couple of times as a kid, because for whatever reason, most likely because the cast included a young Bruce Dern as well as radio and voice actor icon Casey Kasem, The Incredible Two-Headed Transplant seemed to be a syndication station broadcast workhorse. I know it aired a few times on KTVU's either Saturday afternoon Chiller Diller or their late night Creature Features program, back when it was hosted by Bob Wilkins, and I think when it was hosted by John Stanley. And it probably popped up on KBHK's Saturday Afternoon Monsters movie. It's just one of those movies I remember as always being on one station or the other with some degree of regularity. We're going to zip forward 24 years to April 28th, 1995, and the Chuck Norris action comedy Top Dog starts today. And I'm shocked that this came out in 1995, because my memory, I thought it came out closer. I thought it had come out closer to 1990 or something, but nope, 1995. And I think this may have been the last substantive theatrical release from Norris, who by this time was safely ensconced in the series Walker, Texas Ranger. In fact, when I checked the IMDb, I learned that the 19th episode of the third season of Walker, Texas Ranger, which was titled Case Closed, would be competing with this film the very next evening, which would be a Saturday, April 29th. And I think Walker, Texas Ranger won this particular battle because I don't think Top Dog did all that well. Most critics seem to point out that the dog was the best part of the movie, and probably made a lot of bottom dog, or, boy, this movie's a dog pun. But, yeah, not much to say about that. All right, we're going to zip back 12 years. April 29th, 1983. And the cheesy exploitation, horror, demonic thriller, possible mob money laundering production Mausoleum starts today. And I have to say, this is a really cool ad for a really, really trashy movie. Its biggest selling point for me is that the late John Bickler provided the special makeup and creature effects for it. Other potential selling points for various audiences might include star Bobby Breesy going topless and co-star Marjo Gortner getting gnawed to death by a pair of demonically imbued breasts. Yeah, that happens. When I watched this movie, I think it was on Amazon Prime or something, but I didn't watch it until like this century. I was pleasantly surprised to recognize the actor Norman Burton, who plays a well-meaning psychiatrist in this film, from his small role in 1974's The Towering Inferno. Also, LaWanda Page, best known to me for playing Aunt Esther on Sanford and Son, shows up for a comedic cameo. Maybe she owes somebody a favor or lost a bet or something. I don't know. Because I will say that this is Ed Wood level exploitation cheese that very few will find entertaining, and some might find it an unpleasant and amateurish chore to sit through. One viewing of it was enough for me. think. But I thought it would be fun to see what it was showing with. Is it opened at a lot of grindhouses? So I checked the listing for the Roxy, and discovered it was part of a really cool triple bill. For one ticket, you could see Mausoleum along with Funeral Home and The Gates of Hell. Although the paper did misprint the title Funeral Home as General Home. Also, the Parkway had it just paired with The Gates of Hell, while the 4-star had it showing with, and I kid you not, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. That is one weird double bill. April 29th, 1993, we're going to shoot forward. Yeah, good 10 years. And Sidekicks, another Chuck Norris movie, starts tomorrow. And this was him attempting to do some, Top Dog was, I don't know. But it was a much more family-friendly kind of movie. It had a little bit of a more positive message about, martial arts and personal codes, ethics, and whatnot. And while a great many people, myself included, might be tempted to dismiss it as a tired retread of The Karate Kid, I remember enjoying this movie when I watched it on home video. Probably because I could and did disappear into a reality-bending mental fantasy world, just as the character played by the late Jonathan Brandis did in this movie. In fact, there's a scene in it where he's like, I think it starts off where he's like imagining he's in a Chuck Norris movie. He and Chuck Norris are like busting people out of like a POW camp or something. It's a missing in action thing. And he says something. He doesn't realize he's actually speaking it aloud in his classroom. And everybody like looks at him and laughs. And this actually happened to me for real in, I think, 1982, when I was in math class and we were doing a test or something, and I'm just doing that, and then for whatever reason I just start humming the theme to Zombie, Lucio Fulci Zombie. And my friend in front of me said, Chad, to break me out of it, because I didn't realize I was doing it. And everybody in class is just like looking at me like I'm like the weirdest mofo on the planet. And I am not the weirdest mofo on the planet. But I am weird. But somebody's got to be. All right, we're going to zap back. Let's see. I'm going to try to do math. 12 years to April 30th, 1981. And Friday the 13th, Part 2 starts tomorrow. Georgetown Productions and Paramount Pictures wasted zero time making a quickie sequel to one of their biggest moneymakers of 1980, Friday the 13th. And this short and simple retread was rushed into theaters and drive-ins before the first anniversary of the first film's release was upon them. In fact, Friday the 13th appears to have opened in the first week of May. So they got it less than a year, man. Friday the 13th Part 2 was also the first Friday the 13th movie I saw, and I saw it on the big screen. And so, warts and all, it's something of a personal favorite of mine. I enjoyed it, not gonna lie, It's a meat and potatoes, pretty simplistic, You watch it for one reason and one reason only. And if you enjoy that reason, you'll enjoy the movie, or not. I don't know. I'm not going to defend the Friday the 13th franchise on here. I don't think I should. But my Jasons back here, they've got my back. And oh yeah, Mrs. Voorhees is back there with her like variations of her kid. So we're gonna go back now. Let me see here. Ooh, I can't math. 12 years? No. 20? No, 12 years, maybe. I don't know. I'm going to go right here. April 30th, 1969. So that might be 12 years. Um, we have the exclusive Bay Area premiere of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang at the Century 21, which is a dome theater that eventually got broken up. I saw a lot of movies at that theater. I saw everything from like The Cheap Detective to Orca, the Killer Whale, to Irwin Allen's production of The Swarm, to Halloween 3, The Enforcer, third Dirty Harry picture. Um, a lot of movies there that I will over time. John Carpenter's The Thing. Saw that there too. But I'm gonna get back to Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, uh, which was a Albert R. Broccoli production, made made by the people who did the James Bond franchise. Came out, I think, just before um, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is the best Bond film. Um, and was coming off of some pretty big hits. I think You Only Live Twice was like one of the bigger hits, although Thunderball was like the biggest of bigs for them in the 60s. But they had he had wanted to do something different, and they made this really long musical children's film. um It is another movie I remember always taking time to watch whenever it was broadcast on either KTVU or KBHK. And sure, it might be a tad overlong by today's standards. I mean, its runtime is close to 2.5 hours. And even as a child, it seemed to take forever for that damn magic car to show up. But once it did, I was good. It's got a great cast. Like I said, it's got Dick Van Dyke and Benny Hill. It's just yeah. And it's a colorful adventure, and there are songs. But I think Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and Herbie the Love Bug are the two magic cars of my youth. And there's still a part of me that would be quite happy to take an afternoon drive around town in either of them. I mean, who wouldn't? That is my age. I mean, come on. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is a freaking awesome car. Um, yeah. Anyway, that's the end of April. And because that's the end of April, and I made a movie ad recap slideshow of all of the movie ads that have discussed here on Stuff of the Week, and that I posted on either Ghoulies, Ghosties, and Long-Legged Beasties, my more horror, fantasy, science fiction focused, monster focused blog, or the more general, all purpose newspaper ad archive. And that video went up on Friday. But Friday was also May 1st. And on May 1st, 1987, Creepshow 2 starts today. Now, this is another thing where it's just kind of like how Chitty Chitty Bang Bang kind of had the same kind of glossy vibe or look of a Bond movie because it was made by the people who did the Bond pictures. Creepshow 2 was made by the same production company and creative team that were grinding out weekly episodes for Tales from the Dark Side, and would soon be transitioning over to doing monsters. So it comes as no surprise that this film, Creepshow 2, feels more like a collection of Tales from the Dark Side episodes spliced together than it does a sequel to Romero's far more visually kinetic and better paced first film, Creepshow. While not an altogether bad film, it does lack the narrative and visual zest of the first film. It's very flatly made. Old Chief Woodenhead, the opening tale, is I feel the weakest of the three live action segments. The second is The Raft, and is for the most part my favorite segment, and even scared me the first time I saw it, because it is a faithful to decent adaptation of one of my all-time favorite Stephen King short stories. And one of the more memorable experiences when I read it for the first time in the Twilight Zone magazine. Yeah. But the best segment of the film, on a critical and technical level, is the final live action tale, The Hitchhiker, which will have you muttering or wanting to say, "Thanks for the ride, lady," well after it has ended. According to an article or interview I read, I believe in Fangoria, King had actually written The Hitchhiker for Creepshow as a possible replacement for the segment They're Creeping Up on You, should that be considered too difficult to film because of the cockroaches and whatnot. So that it's actually a Stephen King script, or Stephen King had wrote it, might explain why this segment seems to have a tad more energy to it than the other segments that preceded it, because it was actually kind of intended for Creepshow, so it kind of, I don't know. Or maybe I'm just wish casting. The wraparound, like the first film, is animated, but this time it tells an actual story. One that features Venus flytraps. They eat meat. And closing out the week is May 1st, 1920. And we have an ad for the Literary Digest hyping its presidential election poll, which it had held from 1916 through to 1936. And up until that final 1936 poll, the Literary Digest did have a track record of accurately predicting the winner of the presidential election. But the Great Depression would detonate the hidden landmine of accuracy that would reveal sampling bias and non-response bias with the magazine, because they got that really wrong. And because, you see, the Literary Digest polled their subscribers first. Then they polled those who owned automobiles or had phone lines. And in 1936, the number of people that did not have those things versus the number of people who did was staggering. And so, yeah, it was a hard lesson to learn, and the Literary Digest never truly recovered from that devastating error, and the magazine folded and ceased publication in 1938. And we have reached the end of our Wayback Machine journey and the end of the week. Upcoming, I already said I was going to be reading The Vault of Horror. The other book that's next on deck looks to be this one, the last book I bought at the Profondo Rosso store in Rome, Italy in 2024, and this is Giallo Argento, which actually translates as Yellow Silver, all about Dario Argento and his movies, written by his friend and collaborator Luigi Cozzi, who is the manager of the Profondo Rosso store, and who was kind enough to autograph it for me when I was there. and I'm going to read that. And also, the next old book that's been sitting around on my TBR Mount Sudoku for a while will be the third in the Pneumophile series books, Fire Ice by Clive Cussler, with Paul Kimprekos, who probably actually wrote the book. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Action adventure, giallo, mayhem, all that. So we have reached the end, and that's another week packed and stacked, and which means it's time to get started on next week. And I should have actually used that to segue to all the stuff I just showed you. I got to learn how to do this. Well, next time. Until next time, have fun. All right? Bye.